Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatvam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Ganaganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gora Shri Charanaravinda Praptasya Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasurasena Mahaprabhu ki Romanchakam pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Romanchakam pasru Taranga Bhajo Charanaravinda Shri Vigrara Dana Nityanana Shingara Tanma Diramarjanado Shri Vigrara Shingara Tanma Diramarjanado Joktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Jokjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satvana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satvana Truptan Hari Bhakta Kritva eva trupte Bhajato Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Kritva eva trupte Bhajato Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shiradikama Gabayara Para Madhura Leela Gunarupa Namna Para Madhura Leela Gunarupa Namna Pratikshana Swa Tanalalopasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Pratikshana Swa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Ne Kunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Virjuktir Apekshaneya Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Virjuktir Apekshaneya Tatrati Daksha Atibalavasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Valavasa Karana Sakcha Dharitena Shamasta Shashre Ruktastata Bhavyataiva Sadhavi Sakya Dharitena Shashre Ruktastata Kintu Praborja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Gora Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Gora Shri Charanara Vrindam Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Oh Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam bhagavat prasadam Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Dhyayam stubham tasya Yasya trisandhyam Vande Gura Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Gora Shri Charanara Vrindam Charanara Vrindam Vande Gora Shri Charanara Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama Oh Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachata Deshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachata Deshatari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Gaur Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Haraye Nama, Krishna Jadavaye Nama, Hare Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namaha. Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna Shri Jiva Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Shri Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Shri Radha Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Pramanandi Haribo Jai Vishwapara Paramahansa Prabhajakacharya Suttara Saraswati Srimad His Divine Grace of Bhojana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Pratishta Vibhiti Samstapakacharya Vaishnav Sramani Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patitu Dhara Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Gunasat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Ananta Guru Vaishnavindi Ki Jai Prem Si Kaho Si Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavindi Ki Jai Jai Param Daya Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Pramanama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandana Shman Gauranga Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mahavrana Avatar Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Hari Nam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai Juga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihadanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Radha Kun Samakun Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajabam Vrindavan Mathura Ki Jai The Lordship Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadvip Eka Chakra Dham Ki Jai Param Karuna Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smaspadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Shringare Bhagavan Ki Jai Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Mathura Dharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vindi Ki Jai Nitai Gaurari Pramanandi Haribo All glories to the Assembly Bodies Hare Krishna All glories to the Assembly Bodies Hare Krishna All glories to the Assembly Bodies Hare Krishna All glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlada Lada Hime Hiranyakasipo Bhaksha Silatanka Nakalaye Ito Nishinga Parato Nishinga Jato Jato Jami Tato Nishinga Bahir Nishinga Rudaye Nishinga Narasingha Madim Sharanam Prapade Tabakara Kamala Bare Naka Adabhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanobringa Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadish Hare. Tava kara kamala bare naka adabhuta singha dalita hiranyakashipu tanavringam kesavadrita narahari rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Nisingare Nisingare Jaya Nisingare Jaya Nisingare Jaya Narahari 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 Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Prahlad Mara Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Prahlad Mara Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Prahlad Mara Prahlad Mara Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Prahlad Mara Jai Shri Bhakti Pada Sarvighnashana Kanishingare Bhagavan ki Jai Bhakta Shrestha Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai Nitai Gaurari Premanande Hari Hari Bol Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradiri Satavataye Namo Namaha Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namaha Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namaha Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasena Radha Krishna Seva Pava Eya Belasi Radha Krishna Seva Pava Eya Belasi যে তোমার শরণালা তারা বাঞ্ছা পূর্ণ কৃপা করে কর তরে বৃন্দাবন বাসী মোরায়ে বিলাস কুঞ্জে দিয়বা নায়ানে রে বসদা যোগাল রূপরাশি আমি নায়ানে রে বসদা যোগাল রূপরাশি এই নিবেদনা ধারা সখীর অনুগত কর সেবায় আরে কর দিয়ে করণে যদাসি দীন কৃষ্ণ দাস কয় এই নামরা শ্রী রাধা গোবিন্দ প্রেম সদায় নবাসী শ্রী রাধা গোবিন্দ প্রেমে সদায় নবাসী Yani kanisha papane brahmatyari kanisha tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pare pare Yani kanisha papane brahmatyari kanisha tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pare pare Yani kanisha papani brahmatari kanisha tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pare pare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi, Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi, Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Nitai Gora Haribo, Haribo, Haribo Nitai Gora Devi, Nitai Gora Haribo, Haribo, Haribo Nitai Gora Hari. Shri Vrindai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradevi Satavataye Namo Namo Vrindai Tulasi Vai Priyaye Vrindai Tulasi Vai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradevi Satavataye Namo Namo. Vrindai Tulasi Vai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradevi Satavataye Namo Namo. Jai Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. O Tulsi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kaveri Damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant, this very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always stream in love Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Chito Darpana Madhanam Bhava Madhava Ninivapanam Shri Akari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidyavado Jivanam Anandam Burivardhanam Padiparam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Paramijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Etadrushi Tava Krupaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaiva Midrishamya Jani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manatena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Na Dhanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Va Jagarisha Maye Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatar Bhakti Rahitu Kitvai Oinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Paritamam Vasame Bhavambudu Kripaya Tava Pari Pankaju Sitaduli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galorashru Dharaya Vadanam Gadagadharudaya Gira Urakarinchitam Vapokada Tava nama grahane bhavishyati Jugaitam nimishena Chakusha prabhusa itam Shunya itam jagat sarvam Govinda virahename Asli shabhapadaratam pinashtumam Adarshanar marmahatam karotuva Jatatatha vidadatulam patu Mat pranatastu saivana para Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kyastakam Ki Jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauru Tushe Namo. Namo Shambhaya Krishna Krishna. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of a conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus we have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and strong in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause's devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet some or other I've fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant and well in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri 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 Kyastakam Ki Jai. Krishna 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 Chaitanya Krishna. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods and Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of them, Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas, fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the fearless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be resented while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas who worship the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhischa kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Disaturne. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganyat Mirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namini Shri Varsavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Gurnuste Ni Nirotraye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Aspasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambhude Padam Bujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Pumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Panchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabodhanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Mandamate Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadramadaha Shrimad Ratnagara Simhasanastato Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestadi Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanir Golpir Gopinatakstriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhan Jivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Namaste. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakata Satma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksha Vrite Susurabir Abhipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrahma Sevyamanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kananta Aravinda Dalayataksam Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Pakoti Kamaniya Visesha Sobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sudurlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manaso Munibungamanam Sopyastiyat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatun Jagadanda Kotim Yes Chakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Vajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyomana Jasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktar Yamevan Nigama Patitaistuvanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Vyesta Virya Eva Nijarupa Taya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Viluchanena Santaksadeva Hidayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Namavatara Makarud Bhuvanesa Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhuvato Jagadanda Koti Koti Svasesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Trigun Yatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamanam Sattva Valambi Parasattvam Visuddha Sattvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya Lila Yatena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijadamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesu Haridama Sutesu Tesu Te Prabhavani Chaya Vitascha Yena Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shristi Stati Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Trayeva Yatsya Bhuvanani Bharati Durga Yachana Rupam Apiyasya Chachestate Sa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Etu Yasambhutama Pitata Samapaitikar Yat Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Deeparchareva Hitasantanam Abhyapetya Deepayate Vivita Hetu Samanudana Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupa Adhara Shakti Mavalambya Param Swamurtim Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisva Sitakala Matavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanata Vishnur Mahansa Yasya Kala Vishesu Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Baswan Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitadvatatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanu Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Twande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihan Alasya Jagatrayasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganamambu Marudisascha Kalastatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savitasa Kalagrahana Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Sutayasta Pamsi Brahmati Kita Patagava Dayasta Jiva Yadatta Matra Vibhava Bhakada Prabhava Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahoswa Karma Bandhanu Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kinchitra Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaura Vasevya Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadrasim Tanamapurete Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shri Yakanta Kanta Parama Purisha Kalpataravo Jumabhumis Chintamani Ganamai Toyam Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasaki Chidanantam Jyoti Param Apitad Aswadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihi Shravati Shirabi Vyascha Sumahan Nime Sardakyuva Rajati Nahiyatra Visamaya Bhaje Srita Dvitam Tamaham Iha Golakam Itiyam Vedantas Te Santakshiti Viralachara Katipaye Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadi Radha Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Brahma Samhita prayers ki jai. Shrimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse number 36. Etavad eva jignasam tattva jignasunatmana anvaya vyatire kabhyam yat syat sarvatra sarvada. Etavad, up to this. Eva, certainly. Jijnasam is to be inquired. Tattva, the absolute truth. Jigyasuna, by the student. Atmana, of the self. Anvaya, directly. Vyatirekabhyam, indirectly. Yat, whatever. Syat, it may be. Sarvatra, in all space and time. Sarvada, in all circumstances. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, most certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. So we are, let's see where we are. Yeah, we're almost finished. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that one can serve the Lord by offering the result of one's own work. It does not matter what one does. Generally, men may say that whatever they are doing is inspired by God. But that is not all. One should actually work on behalf of God. So this is a big point Prabhupada is making. There's a big difference between saying everything I'm doing is for God and Prabhupada said, generally men may say that whatever they are doing is inspired by God. But that is not all. One should actually work on behalf of God as a servant of God. So many Hindus do this. They say that whatever they're doing, it's him, it's his, he's telling me, right? You know that? They say things like that, but yet they're doing all kinds of nonsense things. That's why Prabhupada says here that generally men may say, that whatever they are doing is inspired by God. Yeah, all the nonsense they're doing, they claim he is doing, I'm not doing, he is doing, right? So, but therefore, he says, generally men may say that whatever they are doing is inspired by God. But that is not all. One should actually work on behalf of God as a servant of God. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 9:27, Yat karosi yad asnasi yad johosi dadasi yat tapasyasi konte yat tat kurusva malarpanam. Do whatever you like or whatever may be easier for you to do. Eat whatever you may eat. Sacrifice whatever you can sacrifice. Give whatever you may give in charity. And do whatever you may undertake in penance. But everything must be done for Him only. If you do business, or if you accept some employment, do so on behalf of the Lord. Whatever you may eat, whatever you may offer, the same to the Lord. You may offer the same to the Lord. And be assured that He will return the food after eating it Himself. So we went over this yesterday, but I wanted to go over that one point that where he says, generally men may say that whatever they are doing is inspired by God, but that is not all. one should actually work on behalf of God as a servant of God. Okay, so then he is the complete whole, and therefore whatever he may eat as offered by the devotee is accepted because of the devotee's love. But again, it is returned as prasada for the devotee so that he can be happy by eating. In other words, to be a servant of God and live peacefully in that consciousness, ultimately returning home back to Godhead. Now, this is a very important point because today we're going to discuss in depth what is knowledge and what is ignorance, and the way of knowing Krishna. And we'll see in this discussion, and I'm going to read directly Prabhupada's words, that most parents are not doing this. They're not really actually teaching their kids Krishna consciousness. Yeah, they're doing some things, but not the real thing. So this is a very important subject. So in other words, be a servant of God and live peacefully in that consciousness, ultimately returning home back to Godhead. This should be the guiding light of our life. That is, to be a servant of God, live peacefully in that consciousness, of Krishna consciousness, let's say, ultimately returning home back to Godhead. It is said in the Skanda Purana, Yasya Smritya Cha Namoktya Tapo Yagya Kriyadisu Nunam Sampurnatam Eti Sadyo Vande Tam Achutam. I offer my obeisance unto him, the infallible, because simply by either remembering him or vibrating his holy name, one can attain the perfection of all penances, sacrifices, or fruitive activities, and this process can be universally followed. Well, you see, when you're in the Puranas and Upanishads, they don't always name Krishna. They just say him, he, for him. So, therefore, devotees of Shiva, they say, oh, this is referring to Shiva. And the devotees of Krishna say, this is referring to Krishna. So what is it actually referring to? So we know for sure it's referring to Krishna. Sometimes, in certain contexts, it may be referring to Lord Shiva. But the majority of the time, it's always Krishna. So, and then it says from the Bhagavatam 2.3.10, Akama sarva kamava moksha karma udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yachate purisham param. Though a person be full of desires or have no desires, he may follow this path of infallible bhakti yoga for complete perfection. One need not be anxious to propitiate each and every demigod. So propitiate means please or serve with devotion to the demigods and goddess. One need not be anxious to propitiate each and every demigod and goddess, because the root of all of them is the personality of Godhead. So this is the understanding of devotees. That's why we do not worship the demigods, although we offer respect to the demigods, but we don't engage in worship, because bhajati, or devotion, is uniquely meant for Krishna. And if we serve Krishna, then all the demigods, if we serve Krishna with love and devotion, all the demigods are satisfied. We don't have to satisfy each one. This is not understood by modern Hinduism, but it's a fact. One need not be anxious to propitiate each and every demigod and goddess, because the root of all of them is the personality of Godhead. As by pouring water on the root of the tree, one serves and enlivens all the branches and leaves, so by rendering service unto the Supreme Lord, one automatically serves every god and goddess without extraneous effort. The Lord is all-pervading, and therefore service unto him is all is also all-pervading. This fact is corroborated in the Skanda Purana as follows. Archite Deva Deve Se, Sankhya Chakra Gadadhare, Archita Sarvadeva Sur, Yata Sarvagato Hari. When the Supreme Lord, the Personality Godhead, who carries in his hands a conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower, is worshipped, certainly all other demigods are worshipped automatically, because Hari, the Personality Godhead, is all-pervading. Therefore, in all cases, namely nominative, objective, causative, dative, dative, ablative, possessive, and supportive, everyone is benefited by such transcendental loving service to the Lord. So in all conjugations and declensions, the Lord, when the Lord is satisfied, everyone else is satisfied. Right. So when you say, okay, what is nominative? That means names. Objective, that means the object of the sentence. Causative, that means the original cause. Dative, dative or dative, that means two or four. And ablative, I'm not sure. Possessive means of, and supportive, I'm not sure either. So, I mean, we can look those terms up. They're terms of this conjugation and declension. So, when it's a noun, it's declension, and when it's a verb, it's conjugation. So, it's ways of using words and expressing like force of what is the name of something, what is the object of the sentence, what is possessive sense, what is a passation sense. You know, all these are different ways of writing sentences and giving meaning. Okay, so the man who worships the Lord himself, who is worshipped, the cause for which the Lord is worshipped, the source of supply, the place where such worship is done, etc. Everything is benefited by such an action. So all goals are accomplished by serving Krishna with love and devotion. That's basically what it's saying. Even during the annihilation of the material world, the process of bhakti yoga can be applied. Kalena nasta pralaye vaniyam. The Lord is worshipped in devastation because he protects the Vedas from being annihilated. He is worshipped in every millennium or yuga, as it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 12:352. Krite yad yayato vishnum trita yam yajato makai dvapare paricharyayam kalo tad darikirtanat. That is, that the Lord is worshipped in the Kali Yuga, in the Sattva Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. In the Vishnu Purana, it is written, Nahanis tan mahach chidram sa moha sa cha vibrama yan muhurtam shanam vapi vasudevam nachintayet. If even for a moment remembrance of Vasudeva, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is missed, that is the greatest loss, that is the greatest illusion, and that is the greatest anomaly. The Lord can be worshipped in all stages of life. For instance, even in the wombs of their mothers, Maharaj Prahlada and Maharaj Parikshit worshipped the Lord. Even in his very childhood, at the age of only 5 years old, Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the Lord. Even in full youth, Maharaj Ambarisha worshipped the Lord. And even at the last stage of his frustration and old age, Maharaj Dhritarashtra worshipped the Lord. Ajamila worshipped the Lord even at the point of death. Chitraketu worshipped the Lord even in heaven and in hell. In the Narasimha Purana, it is said that as the hellish inhabitants began to chant the holy name of the Lord, they began to be elevated from hell towards heaven. Durvasa Muni has also supported this view. Muchyeta yan namni udite narakopi. Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, the inhabitants of hell became released from their hellish persecution. Now, this is in stark difference from Christianity. Christianity definitely teaches, and all the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, say if you go to hell, you stay there forever. But not Krishna consciousness. Here we have proof that even if someone is in hell, they can, if they become Krishna conscious, they can be liberated. Well, first of all, the soul is eternal. So some Christian sects believe that the soul can be killed, can die, or the soul can suffer forever without any hope of salvation. So it depends. It's all mixed up in Christianity and the Abrahamic religions. But here, because the soul is eternal, even if one is in hell, they can be liberated. Okay, so the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam is given by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit is Etan nivridyamananam ichatam akuto bayam yoginam ripanirnitam harir namanakirtanam. O King, it is finally decided that everyone, namely those in the renounced order of life, the mystics, the knowers of fruit of work, the enjoyers of fruit of work, should chant the holy name of the Lord fearlessly to achieve the desired success in their pursuits. So this is a very famous verse, also in the second canto. Similarly, as indicated indirectly in various places in revealed scriptures, 1. Even though one is well versed in all the Vedas and scriptures, if one is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, he is considered to be the lowest of mankind, Naradama. Well, this is also explained in the 10th canto, 84th verse, in the 10th canto, 84th chapter, 13th verse, where it says that it says Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavat Yatkinchana Sarvari Gunas Tatra Halava Bhaktasya Kuto Mahad Guna Manoratinasati Dhavato Bayi. So it's a very famous verse. It's quoted a lot by Prabhupada. It's also in the Bhagavad Gita. Let me just find it. I didn't bring my phone. I forgot to bring it, but that's okay. This verse is also quoted in Bhagavad Gita. And it says, a human being who identifies this body made of 3 elements with his self. Those 3 elements are mucus, bile, and air. So, a human being who identifies this body made of mucus, bile, and air, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, in other words, his family members, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. So, when it says who go to a place of pilgrimage simply for a bath, it doesn't mean it's not referring here to the Yamuna or the Ganges. It's referring to lesser rivers in India. And then also uh, who considers the land of birth worshipable. These are places that are, it's not referring to Vrindavan or other holy dhammas. It's referring to just ordinary countries, like the United States or Russia, or places like that. So this is an important verse because it is revealing the fact that many people have mixed desires. They still have strong material desires that they want to please or want to achieve through Krishna consciousness or through some Vedic process. So they're not considered pure devotees. They're mixed devotees. Or they do go on pilgrimages, but it's basically just to bathe in the water. We see that. Millions of people do that in the Kumbh Mela, hoping to get liberation if one drop of Amrit touches their body. And then also, but they're not really interested in hearing genuine devotees speak. And even if they do listen, it's not really with attention. It's just a ceremonial thing. So Krishna is aiming completely toward pure devotional service for his devotees. So it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:84-13 says that this body is nothing but a bag containing three primary elements, mucus, bile, and air, and that one who accepts this combination of mucus, bile, and air as himself is an ass. Even great philosophers and scientists take themselves to be this combination of mucus, bile, and air. This is their mistake. Actually, the philosophers and scientists are spirit souls, and according to their karma, they are exhibiting their talent. They do not understand the law of karma. So here, this is a fact. The materialistic people who are engaged in sense gratification, even if they're very highly educated, even if they know Sanskrit and can explain it, still they're considered asses, or even worse, the lowest of mankind. Why? Because they do not engage in devotional service. They talk a lot, but they don't actually engage in genuine devotional service, and they don't actually believe in the law of karma, many of them. They do not understand the law of karma. Why do we find so many different personalities? If human beings are nothing but combinations of mucus, bile, and air, why are they not identical? One man is born a millionaire, another is unable to have 2 full meals a day, despite struggling very hard. Why this difference? Because of the law of karma, action and reaction. One who understands this mystery is in knowledge. Yeah, it is mysterious, the law of karma. And by the way, it's very confusing because if you're a devotee, usually Krishna will give you the result of your karma right away. But if you're not a devotee, then he might hold it back for 1 or 2 lifetimes. So when you get the reaction, you have no way of knowing where it's coming from or why it's happening. So it's very bewildering for most people. That's why devotees accept everything, good or bad, as the mercy of Krishna. They don't try and guess this way or that way. And because of that, they're never deterred in their devotional service. They never are discouraged. They know that nothing can happen without the mercy of Krishna. So therefore, Krishna must have some plan. And therefore, they always continue staunchly in the devotional service of the Lord. So Prabhupada says, human life is meant for understanding the mystery of life. Well, right above that, he talked about the mystery. He said, this mystery is knowledge. In other words, if one understands that people are differentiated according to the law of karma, and it's acting in a mysterious way, but if you understand it, this mystery is knowledge. And now he's saying, Human life is meant for understanding the mystery of life, and one who fails to utilize this human form for this purpose is a kripana, a miser. So what is the mystery of life? That is that the soul is eternal, but as long as the soul is attached to mucus, bile, and air, a body of mucus, bile, and air, and all the things that go along with it, all the accoutrements, that's a nice word, accoutrements, ACC, UT, accoutrement. Anyway, those are things like clothing and jewelry and nice cars and nice houses and everything that goes along with the body, right, for sense gratification. So anyone who's attached to those things, they develop this false ego, and they continue struggling in the material world and experiencing birth, death, old age, and disease. So, but actually the mystery of life is you're given, especially if you have the human form, you're given a chance to solve this problem once and for all and go back to Godhead. But now we're going to understand the real process of how to do that. So someone who fails to do that as a human being is called a kripana, a miser. This is stated in the Garga Upanishad. If you get $1 million and do not use it, thinking, oh, I will simply keep this bank balance of $1 million, you are a kripana, a miser. You do not know how to use your money. On the other hand, one who uses his money or his $1 million to make another $1 million is intelligent. Similarly, this human body is invaluable. One who uses it for cultivating spiritual knowledge is a brahmana, a wise man, and one who cultivates materialistic knowledge is a kripana, a miser. That is the difference between brahmana and kripana. So, this body is worth millions and millions of dollars because it has highly developed senses, and the mind and the intelligence is specifically made for self-realization and for solving the mystery of life. And that is to understand that the human body specifically should be used for self-realization, for understanding our relationship with Krishna, and engaging full-time in devotional service for the Lord, and then eventually going back to Godhead. One is back to Godhead even in this lifetime, even in this body, if they only serve Krishna and nothing else. So one who uses the body the way cats and dogs do for sense gratification is a miser, a kripana. He does not know how to use his $1 million. Therefore, it is the duty of the father, the mother, the state, and the teachers to provide spiritual education for their dependents from the very beginning of their lives. Indeed, the Srimad Bhagavatam says that one should not become a father, a mother, a teacher, or a governmental head unless one is able to elevate one's dependents to the platform of spiritual knowledge, which can save them from repeated birth and death. Well, there it is. We don't have a right to be a father or a mother or a teacher or a guru or anything unless we can help our dependents go back to Godhead. This is a very serious statement, and we should understand it. If we are sending our kids to these material schools where the teachers are materialists, where the subject matter is materialism, where the goal is sense gratification, that's actually abuse. It's not mercy, it's abusing the child, because you're subjecting the child to becoming a materialist, or at least associating with materialists and subjecting them to the authority of materialists. So this is knowledge and nescience. Knowledge is using the body, which is just made of mucus, bile, and air, but using the assets of the body, such as mind, intelligence, and the senses, only in the service of Krishna and for nothing else. And understanding the law of karma that differentiates people. This is very elaborately explained in Bhagavad Gita. in the 13th chapter, where it says, I'm sorry, 14th chapter, where it explains that the body is made of these bad substances, right? But the purpose of the body is to use it in the service of Krishna. And if we do, then the body becomes a stepping stone to go back to Godhead. So it says in 15th chapter 8th verse, Sarinam yad avapnoti yat chapi ukramat ishvara grihit vaitani samyati vayurgandam ivasayat. The living entity in the material world carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So Prabhupada explains, here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him on to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body which carries the conception of the next body develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karshati, or struggle for existence. So there it is, a very nice explanation of the dilemma that we're all in. But if we accept spiritual knowledge, then we can liberate ourselves from this horrible situation. And having a body that's made of mucus, bile, and air, and stool, and so many other things. So, therefore, the 13th chapter, I just read from the 15th chapter, verse 8, but the 13th chapter is extremely important because it explains Kshetra, Jnanam, and Gyayam. Kshetra means the field of activity, which is the body. And then Jnanam means knowledge, and Gyayam means the goal of knowledge. So if we understand those three things, Kshetra, Jnanam, and Gyayam, then we become situated to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So let's take a look at the chapter 13, verse number 18 and 19 and 20. So it says, text 18, Jyotisam apitaj jyotis tamasa param uchyate jnanam gyayam jnanakamyam hridi sarvasya vistitam. And it says here, he is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. So this is an explanation of the Supersoul. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of light in all luminous objects, like the sun, moon, and stars. In the Vedic literature, we find that in the spiritual kingdom, there is no need of sun or moon, because the effulgence of the Supreme Lord is there. In the material world, that Brahma Jyoti, the Lord's spiritual effulgence, is covered by the Mahat Tattva, the material elements. Therefore, in this material world, we require the assistance of sun, moon, electricity, etc. for light. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of such things. It is clearly stated in the Vedic literature that because of his luminous effulgence, everything is illuminated. It is clear, therefore, that his situation is not in the material world. He is situated in the spiritual world, which is far, far away in the spiritual sky. That is also confirmed in the Vedic literature, Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat, Svitasvatara Upanishad 3.8. He is just like the sun, eternally luminous, but he is far, far beyond the darkness of this material world. His knowledge is transcendental. The Vedic literature confirms that Brahman is concentrated transcendental knowledge. To one who is anxious to be transferred to that spiritual world, knowledge is given by the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. One Vedic mantra, Svitasvatara Upanishad 6.18, says, Tam ha deva, Tam ha devan atma buddhi prakasam mumukshur vai saranam aham prapadye. One must surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he at all wants liberation. As far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, it is also confirmed in Vedic literature, Tam eva viditvati mrityum eti. Only by knowing him can one surpass the boundary of birth and death. Svitasvatara Upanishad 3.8. He is situated in everyone's heart as the Supreme Controller. The Supreme has legs and hands distributed everywhere, and this cannot be said of the individual soul. Therefore, that there are two knowers of the field of activity, the individual soul and the supersoul, must be admitted. One's hands and legs are distributed locally, but Krishna's hands and legs are distributed everywhere. This is confirmed in the Svitasvatara Upanishad 3.17. Sarvasya Prabhum Ishanam Sarvasya Saranam Brihat. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supersoul, is the Prabhu, or master of all living entities. Therefore, he is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. So there is no denying the fact that the Supreme Supersoul and the individual soul are always different. Okay, so now there are three main things that we should understand, and that is Chetram, Jnanam, and Gyayam. So that's text 19, 13.19. Iti Chetram tata Jnanam, Gyayam chuktam samasata, madbhakta itadvigyaya, madbhava yo papadyate. So it says, thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge, jnanam, and the knowable, gyayam, have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. So there are three things. We have to understand the body and material nature. We have to understand the process of knowledge, which is 13th chapter, 13th chapter, verses 8 to 11. And then there is Gyayam, which is the knowable, and that's Krishna. So this is explained. In verse, let's see, you have actually it is, the knowledge is 8 to 12, and then verse 13 and 14 explain what is the ultimate goal of knowledge. So it says, Gyayam yat tat pravakshyami, this is 13:13, yaj gyat tvam ritam asnute, anadimat param brahma, nasatan nasad uchyate. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So, what is he talking about here? He says, Prabhupada explains, the Lord has explained the field of activities, that's the kshetram, that's the body and material nature, and the knower of the field, that's the individual soul and the supersoul. He has also explained the process of knowing the knower of the field of activities, that is verses 8 to 12, 13th chapter, Amanidvam, Adamidvam, Ahimsa, Santarevaja. So those are the 18 points of knowledge. That's the process of knowing. Now he begins to explain the knowable, first the soul and then the supersoul. By knowledge of the knower, both the soul and the supersoul, one can relish the nectar of life. Very nice. As explained in the second chapter, the living entity is eternal. This is also confirmed here. There is no specific date at which the jiva was born, nor can anyone trace out the history of the jivatma's manifestation from the Supreme Lord. So what are we witnessing here in this 13th chapter? It's very exciting because we are learning what is the field of activity. The body is the field of activity. But then we learn the process of knowledge. And those are the 18 points of knowledge in verses 8 to 12 of the 13th chapter. And these 18 points differ tremendously from the so-called junk knowledge that people are learning. It's actually not real knowledge. It's just it's misleading. And this is explained in Ishopanishad in the mantra mantra 9 and 10. So we read mantra 9 the other day. So mantra 10, let's see what he says. In the modern society, even a boy thinks himself self-sufficient and pays no respect to elderly men due to the wrong type of education being imparted in our universities. Boys all over the world are giving their elders headaches. Thus, Sri Ishopanishad very strongly warns that the culture of nescience or ignorance is different from that of knowledge. The universities are, so to speak, centers of nescience or ignorance only. Consequently, scientists are busy discovering lethal weapons to wipe out the existence of other countries. University students today are not given instructions in the regulative principles of brahmacharya, celibate student life, nor do they have any faith in any scriptural injunctions. Religious principles are taught for the sake of name and fame only, and not for the sake of practical action. Thus, there is animosity, not only in social and political fields, but in the field of religion as well. Nationalism has developed in different parts of the world due to the cultivation of ignorance by the general people. No one considers that this tiny earth is just a lump of matter floating in immeasurable space along with many other lumps. In comparison to the vastness of space, these material lumps are like dust particles in the air. Because God has kindly made them lumps of matter, complete in themselves, they are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. The drivers of our spaceships may be very proud of their achievements, but they do not consider the supreme driver of these greater, more gigantic spaceships called planets. So, see, here Prabhupada is calling universities, they are basically centers of ignorance only. And then they do so much research, but what is their research? They're finding ways of destroying people quicker and massively rather than one at a time. And they're doing that with atomic bombs and all kinds of lethal weapons. And they're doing that with vaccines also and other instruments to kill people rather than save them. Of course, that's a debatable issue, but we see that many people have died taking the vaccine. Okay, so Therefore, this 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is exciting because it teaches us to understand the difference between the body and the soul, and the difference between the individual soul and the super soul, or Krishna. And there's differences and similarities, of course. And then it teaches us the process of knowledge. What is the real process of knowledge? The 18 points of knowledge. So that we can understand what is knowledge and what is ignorance. None of these points are being taught in schools. None of it. Maybe if you go to a religious school, some things are being taught, but most things taught in Hindu and Christian and Muslim schools are all about how to attain material prosperity through religion. Not how to actually get liberated, right? Of course, the Muslims, they say, well, you can get liberated. You strap a bomb on your belly. You go in a public place where there are American soldiers or tourists or whatever, and blow yourself up and kill them, and you'll go to Jannat. Which is nonsense, complete nonsense. So, it says here now, in the 13th chapter, 13th verse, the Lord has explained the field of activities and the knower of the field. He has also explained the process of knowing the knower of the field of activities. Now he begins to explain the knowable, first the soul and then the supersoul. By knowledge of the knower, both the soul and the supersoul, one can relish the nectar of life. As explained in the second chapter, the living entity is eternal. This is also confirmed here. There is no specific date at which the jiva was born, nor can anyone trace out the history of the jivatma's manifestation from the Supreme Lord. Therefore it is beginningless. The Vedic literature confirms this. Najayate mriyate va vipaschit. Katha Upanishad 1-18. Well, that's similar to second chapter, 20th verse also. Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuyajo nitya sasvatam yam purana hanyate hanyamane sarire. The soul is eternal. It was never born and never dies. Never came into being, nor will it cease to exist, and so forth. The knower of the body is never born and never dies, and he is full of knowledge. The Supreme Lord, as the Supersoul, is also stated in the Vedic literature, Sritasvatara Upanishad 6.16, to be Pradana Chetragyapatir Gunesha, the chief knower of the body and the master of the three modes of material nature. So, the Supreme Lord as a super soul is also stated in the Vedic literature, Sritasvatara Upanishad 6.16, to be Pradana Chetragyapatir Guneshaha, the chief knower of the body and the master of the three modes of material nature. So that's a very important statement because it proves that, well, that Krishna controls the three modes of material nature. He's not controlled by them as we are. And he is the knower of the chief knower of the body. He knows our body better than we know it, right? So then it says in the Smriti is said, Dasa Bhuto Harer Eva Nanyas Yaiva Kadachana. The living entities are eternally in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings. Therefore, the description of Brahman mentioned in this verse is in relation to the individual soul, and when the word Brahman is applied to the living entity, it is to be understood that he is Vijnana Brahma, as opposed to Ananda Brahma. Ananda Brahma is the Supreme Brahman, personality of Godhead. Okay. So, there's two knowables. One is the soul, the jiva soul, and the second knowable is the super soul. So this verse 13:13 is mostly talking about the jiva. It also mentions super soul, but it's mostly talking about the jiva. But when we come to verse 14, there's no doubt that it's talking about the super soul. Sarvata pani padam tat sarvato kshi shiromukam sarvata Shrutimaloke sarvam avritya tistati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. Okay, so we can understand now how important this 13th chapter is. It is really explaining who we are in relationship to the material world and the body, who we are in relationship to Krishna, and who is Krishna exactly. So when we understand the Kshetra Jnanam and how to learn, how to actually be educated, what are the 18 points of knowledge? So we have Kshetra, Jnanam, and Geyam. And so if you understand these three things, then you can taste nectar even in this life. And this is said in the 13th chapter, verse number, which one? Here's it. Yes, verse number. One second. Let's see where that verse is. It is that verse is Gunam itam Gunam where is that verse? Gunam itam atityachin dehi deha samud bhavan. One second, let me look it up. Gunam itam atityachin. One second. Gunam yeah, I'm sorry, 14th chapter, 20th verse. Gunam itam atityachin dehi deha samud bhavan. Janma mityu jara dukaya vimukto amritam asnute. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. There it is, 14:20. Okay, so that's what's being said here, that you can, by understanding these things, Kshetra, Jnanam, and Geyam, one can, and acting on the level of Krishna consciousness always, Mam Chayovi Pacharina Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunam Samatitya Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. One staying on the stage of Brahman, spiritual level all the time, not compromising with the material nature at all, then one transcends the modes of material nature and can taste nectar even in this life. Okay, so, therefore, coming back to... All right, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? So we have to still cover the way of knowing God. And we'll do that tomorrow. Huh? Okay. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. You want to have nectar? Now we know. Because the nectar, the Amrit, is actually the nectar of immortality. Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Quando mui sabadana mate Shri Guru Charana Vadma Kevala Bhakati Satma Pandumui Sahabadana Mate Pandumui Sahabadana Mate Janara Prasade Bhai Hey Bhavatoriya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chitete Koriya Arana Koriya Mane Hasa Shri Guru Charane Rati Esse Utamagati E prasade pure sarva asa Chakshudan dilaje janme janme Prabhu se Chakshudan dilaje janme janme Prabhu se Divya Gyani de Prakasito Divya Gyani de Prakasito Prema Bhakti Chaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Prema Bhakti Chaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Vede Gajanara Charito Vediga Janara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu Lokena Lokera Jivana Lokanath Lokera Jivana Haha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mori Badachaya Haha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mori Badachaya Ebeas Kushakti Bhuvana Ebeas Kushakti Bhuvana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Haribo 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo Nitai Gaur Haribo 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo Jayon Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikachas Tatarasata Shri Shimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to Samaveda, all glories to Samaveda, all glories to Samaveda, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go to Premanandi.